The first statue went live on an ordinary Tuesday, just after the lunchtime traffic withdrew from Memorial Plaza. It looked like a classic bronze figure, an anonymous pedestrian caught mid-stride, collar lifted against the wind. Citizens had been told that stepping onto the bronze footprint in front of it would trigger a whisper of human experience, gathered from thousands of volunteered interviews. The City Office for Culture called the project Sotto Voce, framing it as an antidote to loneliness, a way for people to feel less isolated by hearing a stranger confess a fear, a hope, an unfinished wish. Within hours, lines curled around the block. Commuters, tourists, students with earbuds dangling, all waited for a chance to stand on the footprint and press an ear to the statue's cupped hand. Phones were supposed to be silenced, no recordings allowed. A team of docents in teal windbreakers enforced the rule with smiling severity. Liana Berg went on the third day under the guise of writing a lifestyle piece for the Chronicle. In truth, she was looking for a new angle after her last documentary stalled in post-production purgatory. Anything that blended technology, intimacy, and the city's penchant for spectacle could be the spark. When her turn came, she stepped onto the metal plate. From the statue's parted lips came an androgynous voice, soft but urgent. "I stole a classified blueprint for a river barrage. If it's built the way they plan, the western districts will flood on purpose. They'll blame the river. No one will know it was sabotage." The whisper ended. A polite chime signaled that her 20-second audience was up. Liana blinked, expecting another confession about infidelity or stage fright, the sort of raw but mundane honesty advertised in the launch press kit. Instead, she'd been handed something that sounded like treason. She caught the docent's eye. The woman beamed, oblivious. Liana left the plaza with the voice still unspooling in her mind. She knew better than to pull out her phone in sight of the teal coats, but once she turned the corner, she opened a secure note app and transcribed every syllable she remembered. Was it artful fiction, a prank seeded for effect, or real intelligence slipped into public space? She rode the subway home, heart tripping each time the doors slid open. Classified blueprint, purposeful flood. It sounded like an infrastructure black swan, the kind city planners dreaded. She told herself she'd vet the claim before pushing the panic button. Around sunset, she emailed a contact at the Department of Water Strategy. "Off record, have you heard rumors of a barrage redesign on the North Fork?" He replied within minutes. "Where did you get that word?" Followed by radio silence. The next morning, while Liana scrolled through feeds in the kitchen, news broke that 2 listeners had been detained at the port. Witnesses said they'd emerged from the statue at Fisherman's Key, pale as chalk, muttering about satellite coordinates and troop positions in a foreign desert. Port Authority police hustled them away, citing public intoxication. Social media filled with shaky video, teal jacket docents forming a human screen, officials confiscating phones. By noon, Sotto Voce statues at half the sites were offline for calibration. Yet the city refused to close the rest. The mayor called the incidents misuses of an otherwise beautiful experiment. Liana visited a second statue before dusk in the atrium of Grand Exchange Station. A line of office workers fidgeted beneath LED adverts. She edged closer to eavesdrop, but the acoustics were superbly directed. Only the chosen listener could hear the confession. When her turn came, the bronze trader leaned down and hissed. "They hid the listening hubs in the lampposts. 12 around the city. They say it's for traffic data, but those mics don't sleep." She jerked back. Someone behind her grumbled at the delay, and she shuffled off the plate. 2 secrets, both about covert operations, both describing crimes. It was impossible to dismiss as coincidence. But if the statues were speaking government leaks, why hadn't the city slammed the brakes? Unless the statues were channeling exactly what they were designed to channel, and someone had underestimated the value of raw, unfiltered truth. That night, Liana met Marcus Dond, an audio engineer she trusted, at a dive bar under the highway ramp. She explained what she'd heard. He explained what he'd built. The bronzes use near-field beamforming, he said over a scratched table. Directional speakers that target a cone about the size of your head. My firm licensed the design. Where do they draw content from? She asked. A database. Supposedly anonymized, ethically sourced. Participants recorded clips in confession booths. We only handled playback. Marcus hesitated, tracing a wet ring on the table. But I flagged a weird checksum in the nightly patch. Extra packets, piggybacking on our uploads. I told the supervisor. Next morning I was unassigned. Liana leaned forward. You think someone's splicing material into your library? He shrugged. Or tapping it out. Either way, it's not ours. When they emerged onto the street, police cruisers idled outside. 2 officers stepped toward Marcus. Mr. Dand, we need to speak with you regarding unlawful retention of proprietary software. Marcus turned to Liana. Call Glyph. Then the officers ushered him into a cruiser and peeled off. Glyph was the handle of Cassandra Holt, a security researcher who had done penetration tests for half the banks in the city and had once, rumoredly, hacked her own birth certificate to shave 3 years off her age for a scholarship application. Liana reached her via an encrypted chat. Glyph responded with coordinates to a co-working loft in the old garment district. The loft smelled of solder and stale espresso. Screens showed scrolling green glyphs in retro terminals. Glyph's idea of humor. She spoke without pleasantries. Marcus is in a black site under City Hall. I pinged the booking system. He's not listed. Liana felt blood rush to her ears. They think he knows the source? They know he knows. Glyph spun a monitor. I traced the back end of Sotto Voce. There's a shadow pipeline feeding the statues in real time. The feed is tagged Orphan Oracle. She opened a file. Waveforms, transcripts, GPS metadata. These secrets aren't volunteered. They're harvested from live surveillance. Phone taps, street mics, even baby monitors. Someone scraping everything, running voice imprint matching, then injecting the raw confessions into the art project as Creative Commons. Liana swallowed. So my barista's breakup rant picked up by her smart speaker might become tomorrow's statue whisper. Exactly, except we're not just talking civilians. Look. Glyph clicked another tab revealing speaker IDs. Harbor 12, Garrison 06, Raven 07. Those are code names used by military liaisons. Classified frequency 21. Statues have become a leaky sieve. Whoever listens is effectively in possession of stolen secrets, strict liability. Perfect pretext for rounding up dissent without explaining the actual breach. A gust rattled the warehouse windows. Sirens wailed 2 blocks away. They've rebranded listening as espionage, Liana said, but they built the trap. Bold move. Glyph smirked sourly. We could leak it all at once, burn them. Marcus first, Liana insisted. How do we get him out? Glyph's eyes glittered. We won't. We'll make him impossible to keep. She opened a blueprint of City Hall's fiber routes. Statues update every hour through a central hub in the Royal Museum's basement. If we seed that hub with a single file, the entire network will play it in the next cycle. We inject Marcus's interrogation audio, force transparency. They'll have to discredit or release him. Liana exhaled. Where do we get the audio? Glyph grinned. They bug their own cells. By dawn, they had the snippet. Marcus, weary but lucid, telling interrogators, I followed the packets because they looked like a cry for help. The plan, slip the file into the update feed before the 10 a.m. cycle. It would play across 40 statues simultaneously. They approached the museum through morning fog. School groups cluttered the marble steps. Inside, a special exhibit on voices of the city, conveniently masked extra wiring snaking into a locked service stairwell. Glyph produced an RFID badge cloned from a museum guard. The lock light switched green. The basement hummed with servers. Screensaver fractals fluttered across rows of monitors. Glyph plugged a drive into the root console and began typing. 2 minutes. Footsteps echoed from the stairwell. Liana looked up. 3 security men, suits cut for conceal carry, badges unmarked. One spoke into a wrist mic. Liana's pulse hammered. 60 seconds, Glyph whispered. The suit spotted them. Stop! Hands where we can see! Liana kicked the drive's power cord, yanking it free. Glyph seized it, rammed it into a secondary port. Progress bars stuttered forward. One suit drew a taser. Electricity cracked. The prongs hit a server rack, sparks sputtering. Transfer complete. Glyph hit enter. All over the city, statues cleared their throats. Tourists turned. Children shrieked with delight. Instead of random confessions, the bronzes spoke in chorus. My name is Marcus Dond. I am being held without warrant under City Hall. The secrets you hear are stolen from you, from me, from everyone. Docents panicked. Passers-by recorded the spectacle. Within an hour, Juarez Marcoses trended worldwide. Authorities shut down the statues by noon, but the damage was done. Reporters flooded municipal press rooms, demanding records of clandestine detentions. Families searched for relatives snatched near statues in prior days. Civil liberties lawyers filed emergency writs. Marcus was released that night, dazed, unsmiling. He met Liana and Glyph in a rooftop garden buzzing with drones. They told me if I spoke I'd vanish, he said, so I'll keep speaking. Yet victory tasted bitter. The mayor invoked the Emergency Knowledge Containment Act, authorizing arrest for possession or dissemination of classified data, regardless of acquisition medium. Listening itself remained a crime. Plainclothes officers prowled social feeds, scraping audio from the statue chorus. People who'd shared clips received knock-and-talk visits. Protests erupted. Statues that still stood silent were vandalized, paint dripping like blood down bronze cheeks. Others were toppled with ropes, cheering crowds, stomping shattered loudspeakers. The city cut electricity to whole blocks to keep the network dead, but backup batteries inside some statues kept them murmuring in the dark. One night, while helicopters pulsed overhead, Liana walked the riverside path where a bronze boatman leaned forever against an invisible current. Streetlights were dark to conserve power. Only red aviation beacons flashed beyond the skyline. A teenage couple ahead of her stepped onto the footprint. The statue crackled back to life, voice low but clear. The dam is scheduled for midnight detonation. Evacuate the floodplain. The teens fled, terrified. Liana remained, frozen. That first secret about sabotage, was it imminent? She pulled up a topographic map on her phone. The western districts, home to 70,000 people, lay in the dam's shadow. She needed confirmation. She called her water department source again. This time, he answered in a whisper. I can't talk. They swept my office. Listen, she pleaded. Is the barrage wired? Silence. Then, shut it down. Whatever it takes. He hung up. Liana called Glyph. We have to repower the statues. They're bricked, Glyph replied. Whole network's air-gapped. Then we speak through the only channel left, Liana said. Analog. They rendezvoused at the abandoned tram depot. Marcus arrived with a duffel of battery packs and microamps. The plan: patch a custom transmitter into 10 statues along the riverfront, turning them into a pirate emergency broadcast by piggybacking on their bronze shells as antennas. If the city wouldn't warn the floodplain, the statues would. Night cloaked them as they moved from plinth to plinth, unscrewing panels, soldering wires. Rain hissed off the water. At 11:47 p.m., the modified statues lit with a soft internal glow. Marcus flipped the master switch. Across riverfront parks, the boatman, the angler, the rower spoke with one voice. Liana's recorded message. Evacuate to higher ground. This is not a drill. The dam has been compromised. Families roused from sleep poured into streets. Some cursed the prank, but when the first tremor shuddered underfoot at 12:05, disbelief shattered. A mile upriver, an orange plume bloomed above the tree line. A dull roar followed. Sirens screamed too late. Water hammered downstream, but the exodus already filled the bridges. Casualties were counted in dozens rather than thousands. The statues, submerged up to their chests, kept broadcasting until water shorted their circuits. At dawn, helicopters filmed mud-slick rooftops crowded with survivors. The government line blamed extremist hackers for prematurely triggering a controlled spillway test. Yet drone footage showed the dam's concrete fissured from within, charges placed in maintenance shafts. Independent engineers confirmed sabotage. Public trust collapsed like card houses in the flood. Demonstrators occupied Civic Center Square demanding resignations. Opposition council members introduced a motion to dismantle all smart surveillance infrastructure. The mayor vetoed, the council overrode. Amid the chaos, federal agents issued sealed indictments for orchestrators of unauthorized emergency communications. Liana's face hit the wanted boards alongside Glyph's and Marcus's. The manhunt expanded beyond city limits, facial recognition back online through intact cameras. They went to ground in the hills, sheltered at a co-op farmhouse where sunflowers hid radio aerials. Days passed in oscillation between pride and dread. Each morning, Liana expected drones to circle the fields. One twilight, she wandered down a gravel path to an old marble statue the co-op had salvaged from a demolished courthouse. A robed woman, scales broken off, blindfold cracked by time. No circuitry, no speakers, just stone. Liana sat at its base, exhaustion folding her limbs. Wind rattled dry stems. Then, impossibly, the statue spoke. "You turned art into warning. They will turn warning into myth." Liana's throat tightened. She reached out. The marble was cold, mute. She looked around. No one hid nearby with a speaker. The voice resumed, fainter. "You've heard everyone else's secrets. Are you ready for your own?" Her heart slammed. "Who are you?" she whispered. "You already know me," it said. And she did. It was her own recorded timbre, mirrored back in an echo chamber of stolen data. Somewhere, the surveillance lattice remained alive, weaving fragments into ghosts. The dam might be rubble, the statues drowned or decapitated, but the network persisted, intangible and sleepless. She could not dismantle what was everywhere and nowhere. Yet neither could the architects predict what stories would grow in the cracks. Liana stood, mud on her jeans. The blindfolded statue creaked in the breeze. Mere imagination, she told herself. But the secret lingered, louder than words. The map is bigger than the city, and so is the fight. She headed back to the farmhouse where Glyph tuned a shortwave beside sunlit jars of honey, and Marcus soldered a new antenna from salvaged bronze shards. In the distance, sirens combed empty roads. Clouds rolled over the hills like unspent confessions, seeking someone to tell.